How do I turn on Facebook?
I'm already live.
Okay.
Then you can't. Hold on a minute. My eyes are red. Hey, welcome to Intimate Conversations. It is your girl, Talitha Kume, Little Girl Arise, and it is time to talk about what you have been afraid to say out loud, what you're afraid to discuss, and tonight we are going to talk about it. If you like what you hear, make sure you like and share the video and hit the subscribe button for me to the show, Intimate Conversations. My quote for the day is, be careful who you invite unto your soul. And so last Thursday, you guys, my first show with the change of the format with Woody Howard, and we had a good show about sex and marriage, and we talked about that. Talked a little bit about if you can masturbate while married, and all these other juicy things that we kind of find it difficult to talk about, and we talked about it with her. And so tonight I am joined with my special guest, Christy Dean, and we are talking about soul ties and singleness. And so Christy, you've been on my shows a couple times. You called in, gave your opinion on some subjects, and I just want to say thank you for your support, because you're always really supportive of a lot of people, and I appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me again.
And and I know that this would, I wanted to talk about this because I felt like you would have been the perfect guest, or you would be the perfect guest to kind of talk about this issue. And so I want to talk about the sex and soul ties. And I want to start by saying that I actually, when I do my shows, Chrissy, I do a lot of research and stuff like that. And so I was researching, and I was going to come from like a biblical point of view, or try to come from a biblical point of view, but there's really no such thing as a soul tie in the Bible. And not saying that I didn't know that, but I was trying to find something that kind of referenced it or kind of said something similar to it. And there's really not anything that's even kind of similar to it. And so I kind of decided that I wanted to come at it from the standpoint of being a single woman and having a spiritual connection. So even if it's not a soul tie, we know some type of spiritual connection, when you're having sex. And so my first question to you is, do you believe that there is a spiritual connection with everyone that we lie down with or have sex with, especially for women?
Most definitely. The reason why I believe it is because as women, we are receivers, because if a man is coming, then he's giving, or he's coming. So that's him giving out or releasing. But with us, we're receiving it, and whether it's in your womb, in your body, or wherever people want to say it lands. So to me, I definitely, believe that as receivers, we are being affected by, like you say, what we're allowing into our soul, into our womb, into our bodies.
And so, do you think that when having sex, even though we're receivers, like, where do you feel like that spirit part comes in? Like, where does that come from? Is that the emotional connection because we are the receivers? Like, what do you think that looks like when having sex?
I'm thinking that it's emotional. It's the emotional connection. Um, don't get me wrong. There probably are women that can actually have sex and disconnect and it be nothing. Maybe prostitutes or anybody that sell their body or go through things like that. Like maybe that can happen and it not affect you because you are not emotionally tied. But when you become emotionally tied, I think that's where the soul tie comes in at. To be quite honest with you, like if you have feelings, as they say, oh, we call feelings. And so then you have a problem with becoming a little crazy or, go through a few changes for this man. And it's like, why am I doing all this? And it might be because there is simply a soul tie there.
Okay. Well, I think I was spiritual some of that. My question after that is, do you think having a lot of sexual partners for women hurts our opportunity to really connect sexually and spiritually with someone by the time we do settle down? So say
I believe it's going to have a major effect. And the reason why I believe it has a major effect once you settle down is because now we have comparison. That's why I believe it.
Okay.
It's probably for a different reason because now you're comparing everybody that you've been with, maybe with your partner. And the problem that lies there, if you were used to 9 inches, and I hate to be so graphic, then he's 5 inches. Now you're constantly thinking about that 9 inches you used to get, and I can't get that anymore. So now I'm getting 5 inches, and all I can think about is the 9 inches, which to me is the reason why I feel the Bible says that you should wait until you're married to biblically know your husband or wife. And so that's where I believe the problem lies at, even if it's not the soul tie, because you can connect with somebody else and it no longer be a soul tie with the last person. But I believe that comparison thing, when you've been with so many different men, now you're starting to compare who's bigger, who lasts longer, and it can drive you literally, to me, crazy or make you have mental breakdowns or things happening with you mentally and emotionally because you're not getting what you used to get.
What about though the physically? What about the body and the stretching of the vagina and all that other kind of stuff? Do you think?
Well, the thing for me that I believe is that because we can have a baby. I didn't have my baby vaginally. I had a C-section, but because we can have babies, you're able to close back up. Okay. So when you have different sex partners, and especially for long periods of time, I believe, yes, you're going to go, like I say, with that 9 inch and it's a little bit fatter or whatever it is, that's going to fit to you and that's going to conform to you. Right. So then the problem that you run into, and this is deep honesty, but I know you don't mind that, is that when I go to now the 5 inch guy and I've been with the 9 inch guy, he's going to be able to tell no matter how much you douche, no matter how much you get in hot water, he's going to be, as soon as he gets in, because you may tighten up for that moment, but once he's in, he's going to know you've been with somebody else. And that is something that I have ran into on several occasions. Really? And it's not a nice conversation to have. And the reason I say that, Talitha, when I was 15, I lost my virginity, right? And it's so funny because my son is 14 now, and he just asked me this question the other week. Mom, what age did you lose your virginity? And I don't hide anything from my child. I am open with him. And I told him, well, babe, at 15 years old, I lost my virginity to a 20-year-old. Mm-hmm. And I said, and he could have went to jail had my grandmother who raised me wanted to report him. But he didn't go to jail because this was consented. And I would have fought for this man and said, hey, I wanted him. You know what I'm saying? And he wasn't rape in any kind of way. Now, everybody else can say he knew better, if you got a 15-year-old and he's 20. So
Right.
the problem I ran into, and I know this is very honest, but you know I'm an open book, sleeping with a 20-year-old and then going back to 15-year-old boys, I was drowning everybody my age.
Okay.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I feel is the problem is, because I know this is about soul ties, and yes, I believe there are soul ties. I had one with a guy for 13 years that I finally broken. You know about this. You met this guy. You've seen this. And I cannot believe it's finally gone. But I never allowed people to tell me that God was not able to pull me out of it. Because that was the one thing that people try to tell you is that if you got a soul tie, God's not going to introduce you to nobody else. You're not going to be able to meet nobody else. That's not true. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of people that were with wrong people and they met the right person and they were strong enough or God gave them strength to get rid of the wrong person. So I kind of veered off, but I was saying to you that if you've been with a 20-year-old and you go back to 15-year-olds, or you've been with a 9-inch and you go to a 5-inch, they're going to be able to tell, just point blank, period.
And so, but do you think though, well, you already said for yourself, for a woman, that it might be a little bit difficult, but for a man, don't you think that that would be difficult for him too? Like if he's just swimming, you know, and you know, and the woman is so loose, he's kind of like, well, damn, you know, now he's looking at you some type of way.
Oh yes, it brings problems into a serious relationship.
Yeah.
Now, if you just sex buddies only, it's probably nothing he can say to you that's gonna make you feel bad if you're sex buddies only. Because I sleep with who I want to sleep with. We have no commitment, and if you feel some type of way, I'm sorry. But when you finally go into a serious relationship, then it becomes a problem because he may say to you, I feel like you're ruined, or he may say to you, but I got on that subject because I was saying with us having babies, we snap back. And so if you haven't been with a 9-inch guy, let's say for 9 months, you've only been with the 5-inch guy and you've been with nobody else, you're going to conform to that 5-inch guy. But if you ever step out of that, he's going to know automatically. If you've been with somebody bigger than him, he's going to automatically know. Point blank, period.
Because it forms to you. I get that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's why I'm saying you have a baby, you got to know the vagina comes back. Nobody can say, oh, girl, you're going to be loose, because the vagina is made to snap back. Look at all these women having all these kids. Like, I just don't strongly believe that you can keep pushing big pound heads out of your vagina and it never closes back, because it's going to close back up.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Even though I didn't have a vaginal birth, and I know you're not a biological mother, you know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is I had a C-section, so I wouldn't know. But I did want a vaginal birth for that reason. I wanted to see would it conform back, you know, because nobody stays the size of a watermelon, you know what I'm saying? And you're a lemon or a cantaloupe or whatever. You see what I'm saying? Once that baby comes out, that's what you're doing. You're dilating to 10. You're opening up for that baby to come out because of God's amazing, the way it goes, science.
I was about to say that God, I mean, God is just, he's amazing at how he designed our bodies, period, for that to be, you know, for that to be so, because that is incredible. And I didn't even think about it that way. So
so I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say, girl, you be open from being with all those men, because I've had my fair share. You know, I don't name numbers because I don't want, you know, partners and stuff like that to get upset. But I'm just saying I've had my fair share and I am not ruined like that. And it's so funny because I talked to another girlfriend I went out to eat with, and she was just saying, you know what, Christy, I'm not either. And she's dating like a stripper that's probably well endowed. And the thing is that she said you're made to snap back. And that's just the truth. That's why they call it snap back. So I just feel like that the soul tie part of that a man could get upset about is if you go out of a relationship that's serious and go be with another man and he was bigger than your man, then now you got problems.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
Do you think that a woman having a healthy sexual appetite though can scare some men away, as far as, you know, when it comes to sex and them kind of saying, you know, well, this lady has a sexual appetite, high sexual appetite, so she's been with several people, and then, you know, as a man, I don't want to tie myself to her. Do you think that men think that way?
They do.
You do?
They do. And I'm dealing with that right now because I'm dealing with the older man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people deal with younger men, which may be some other people's conversation, and they say, well, now that I'm older as a woman, I don't like sex like that, and my husband does, and so that's a problem. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So let's reverse that. When you deal with an older man that's saying, hey, I'm getting older, I don't know what it is, I don't get hard like that, I don't get horny like that. And so here's the thing, that I knew that I was going to be at this crossroad at some point, if I can be really, really honest. I knew that this is coming. So the crossroad is, do you give up great sex with this 13-year partner that now is no longer in my life? I thank God that it is finally a broken soul tie, and I'll never go back again. It'll be like a dog returning to their vomit. But I'm just like, oh my God, it's finally gone. But that great 3 or 4 times a week now has to become once every 4 days. Then it had to become once every other day. Then it had to become, now if you want to seriously date somebody, when they're going through changes and they don't feel like, because as a woman, women go through changes and they don't want sex. But that was never my thing, because I was a sex addict in my own eyes. To me, I was a sex addict. It's like, okay, I'm addicted to this. I love this. So I wanted it whether I'm going through or not. If I'm grieving, I want it even more. They say that's the aphrodisiac, grieving. And so when you deal with that, and you got now a man that's grieving, like he lost a family member, and it's like, I don't want to have sex. So now you got to lay beside him and let him know that I'm not here just for that. So what I meant by, I knew this crossroad was coming. Do you say, I can no longer have all this sex all throughout the week, 3, 4, 5 times a week, and I now got to go to once a week? You know what I'm saying? Once a month, twice a month. That can become a problem for women or a man. You see what I'm saying? If that's something that you were used to. So I say the crossroad there now is, do you just say, you know what, God, I'd rather have somebody that cares about me. You see what I'm saying? That I wouldn't say necessarily loves me, but somebody that cares enough to say, I'm not going to use you like that. Your body is not just for sex. You see what I'm saying? I want to spend time with you. I want to be around you. I still want you to spend the night, even though I can't have sex with you, because these are all now problems. You see what I'm saying? Because you were used to just guys that say, I want sex, 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 and you gave them sex, 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 sex. So that's where the problem lies. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
What I'm saying?
Yeah. I totally get it. So so we're talking about that and saying that it could scare some men away. So with that though, you and I talked about believing that, as far as the Bible, and you just said it before, that the Bible teaches that sex before marriage is wrong. So do you believe, and I think you said this, you just said this, that God doesn't allow some to find that special someone because they're doing things backwards. You said no, you don't believe that.
I don't believe that at all, because I was constantly told by many people, and especially church people who are judgmental, and please don't let them be celibate, because they sure gonna say it. You will never find your husband while sleeping with somebody else. I knew in my mind, Talitha, I knew in my mind, and I kept on telling God, I don't believe this. If this is a thorn in my flesh, if anybody knows about Paul with a thorn in his flesh, and God said, I'm not going to remove it because it keeps you coming to me. Let's go on that part first of all, because my big sister used to say, you're perfect at everything else in your life. You're a woman of God. But when it comes to having sex with men, that is your weakness. With me having both parents on crack, I didn't beat the statistic of being promiscuous. I didn't beat that. That was the statistic that I had to fight. Okay. And I fought it for all of my life up until now. And so, with that being said, it was like people would say to me, because you're having sex, you'll never meet the right one. Do you know how many women out here are no longer virgins when they get married? So are you telling everybody that? Because if you met the right one for husband number 3 or something like that, and you say, but I was with the wrong one at the time I met him, then how did it transition to you saying, I'm only going to be with my husband, I'm no longer going to be with the wrong one, I'm going to start dating this guy and this guy only? It does transition. It does happen. And I refuse, because of my strong faith. And I once got called out by a prophet that said, your faith is so strong, it's like Sarah, that had a baby at 90. That's some strong faith to believe you're going to have a baby at 90.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, you know what? I know for a fact that God is able to pull me out of this when it's time.
Mm-hmm.
When it's time. But nobody else understood that. You understand what I'm saying? Because that was my personal walk. That was my personal journey. That was my personal sin. Nobody has a heaven or hell to put me in.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
So it was like, you're judging me for having sex, but yet you're hateful, you're envious, you're evil. You know, you may not be lustful, but you glutton. It could be all kind of other deadly sins, because there's 7 of them that's deadly that you could be doing, but you're judging me because you don't do it. So I would say this, that my pastor Bishop Jake said years ago, an alcoholic understands the alcoholic, and a weed head understands another weed head, or a drug addict understands another drug addict. So if you're on drugs, but I do alcohol, I may not understand you, because I'm like, I couldn't possibly do drugs, but you still drink alcohol. So that's the thing about the judgmental world system of it.
Yeah.
But I do believe that soul ties do exist. I do believe, you know, that you have mental telepathy, and this person can pick you up, and they can pick you up, and it'll be like, hey, I kind of felt you, so I called you. So I believe in stuff like that. Yes, indeed. But nonetheless, you know, it can become a major problem. I do believe, but I always kept the faith and refused to believe that anybody could tell me you'll never meet the right one because you're having sex.
Mm-hmm.
I just refuse to believe that.
And I never thought that. I think that for me, because I remember telling you about me. I remember I asked you that because I remember saying that about myself, and I was like, okay, well, of course, you know, to me, like, you know, God not gonna send you a husband when you with somebody else's husband. You know, I don't believe that. I mean, but
no, if you're dating somebody that's married husband, or are you saying he's not going to send you a husband if you're with another man that's somebody else's husband?
I'm saying if you're with someone that's not your husband, that's someone else's husband, but then you praying for a husband, that's kind of an oxymoron. That's a contradiction. You know what I'm saying?
I've never done that. Been with somebody else's husband. That you saying the man is already married, or I'm trying to understand what you're saying. You saying the man is already married, or with a man that you know that's not your husband?
No, I'm talking about the man that's married. So I'm saying,
No. I've never had that situation, so I'd never be able to speak on that. Yeah,
right.
I don't mess with married men because of the very fact that I don't want nobody messing with my husband when I get married, and I feel like karma is always on time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I've messed with one married man knowingly in my life, Talitha, and I don't know if I told you the story because I tell it all the time because it's my testimony. My baby was 2. I had just changed his pull up, and I turned around for a brief minute to put his book bag in the car, and he jumped in a cart in the apartments, a golf cart, and he pushed the gas, and off he went because they left the key in. And I tried to catch him. So now I have a swollen hand because he wrecked out. Thank God that he hit a car instead of the curb. Because had he hit the curb, they said from the speed he was going, he would have flown out of the car. It really hurt himself. So he flew out of the cart and had a big old knot right here in the middle of his head. And they charged me over $2,000 to fix all of that damage. Now, remind you, I go to God when bad things happen to me and be like, what am I doing wrong? I had just slept with a married man knowingly. Just did it. Just did it. And this happened to my baby. So I lost money. It's like God put holes in my pocket, and I almost lost my child. And Talitha, I took it upon myself to call this man and say, look, we can't mess around anymore because I almost lost my child. I looked at, he could have died. He could have hurt himself, you know, from the big bump on his head. They could have called CPS on me. Even though everybody's saying they should not have left that key in that cart like that, I was still blamed for that. I had to pay for that cart. And then I had to pay $250 for the Mexican maintenance man Lincoln car that my son hit and dented. But what I'm saying is, I'm saying that to say that I feel like that was bad luck. Like I have a family member, I won't say which one, that messed with married men, and she always have bad luck. She always have bad luck. I just don't believe in messing with married men. So I just wanted to stress that I've done that once, and when I had that bad luck with my child and almost lost him and had all that money have to come out of my pocket, I was just like, oh no, we can't do this. Yeah, because
if we believe in soul ties, or if you believe in a spiritual connection, do you not think that if you have a spiritual connection with someone you're sleeping with, yet you're praying for someone else or God to bring somebody in your life, that because your spirit man is connected to this person, that it would be hard to see that other person if God
No,
you don't
no. And once again, I knew all of that time, those 13 years, that when it's time for me to get away from this man, God is going to pull me away in his timing. I don't care what everybody else say. And so that's just my personal belief. And I mean, everybody may disagree with me. Everybody may be, oh no, if you had a soul tie with a man for 13 years, it's no way God's going to put the right man in front of you. I'm not saying I have the right man now. I sometimes feel like it could be a decoy until the real thing comes. But what I can say is that in my life, I've had a man come in my life to help me get over another man 2 or 3 times now. And it has been an awesome experience because it is somebody that you were crying over. You had a soul tie over. You know, I didn't cry over this 13-year partner and losing him. I just came to the realization that this man was so selfish that he didn't give anything back to me besides sex and good sex. That was it. That was all. I was spending all the money. I was doing all the things. I was doing, you know what I'm saying? It was such an uneven where I was doing so many deposits and he was doing so many withdrawals that I wasn't getting any deposits back. So I'm going to say it put me in insufficient funds, right? Mm-hmm. So insufficient, you know, when you're bankrupt. So I just felt like when I saw it for this last moment that this man came up to me and said, you would think after 13 years you would get something. So I always tell people this and they find it to be amazing. I never saw this man on payday. His paydays, he never came to me. Never, never, never. He would never come over on his paydays. Am I making sense what I'm saying? And so he comes to me at the end of this, when it finally ended after these 13 years, and says, I got more money than I've ever had in my life. I got $8,000 saved. He bought him like a Charger car with wheels on it from a cousin or something. And I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm going, okay. And so he has a flat tire one night and I'm dating the new guy, right? And I go help the old guy, you know? And so I'm like, okay, I'll come help. And when I go help, because he has a flat, this is when I'm like, well, where's your money? You said you had $8,000 saved or whatever while he's fixing his flat. And I guess he was broke. But either way it go, I had a girlfriend who said, ask him for some money and see what happens. So I asked for $100. You got all this money, give me $100. But what he did is try to play with me in order to get that $100, tried to make me feel like if you have sex with me, I'll give it to you. But he never wanted to give it to me because I wasn't following and obeying him exactly how he wanted me to do. Or the other thing was he was just selfish. He was just, so he never gave me this money. And so it got so bad where this man called my mother and said, what's wrong with Christy? You see what I'm saying? She just acting funny with me. He's not going to tell her I'm not giving him sex, because at that point I started to see some different things. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I told my mother, I don't know why he thinks, first of all, you can tell me what to do with my vagina. You my mama, but I do what I want to do with mine. You see what I'm saying? And he called and told her, and my mom just simply told him this, and I'm so glad she told him the truth. Christy is dating a man now that's doing things for her, that's taking her out, that's spending money on her, that's taking her shopping, that's doing some stuff for her. And so when I began to see something different, and then like I say, this man is older, so he's not going to pounce on me and have sex all the time and make me feel like I'm just an object. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And it made so much sense. And so I was like, this man is super selfish. And Talita, when I saw that, I was like, I don't want to be in anything like this ever again. I'm done. Mm-hmm. And I walked away. That was it for me.
Really?
Yeah, that was it. I walked away. And I never looked back and haven't looked back.
And you were able to walk away even with the 13-year spiritual connection.
It didn't even matter. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's hard because you think about that 4 or 5 times, you know, a week, and it's like, whoa. And it was excellent sex. I'm not going to lie to you about that. It was excellent sex. And it was a hit every time. If it was a miss, it was very, very rare. You see what I'm saying? So it was a hit every time. And with me being a mental patient, I needed that. I needed that endorphin release. I needed the tryptophan release. I needed that release. And it put me to sleep, because a lot of times I wouldn't sleep at night on my psych meds. Being bipolar, I take psych meds. And so it would put me to sleep. I remember times when he would say, "You haven't had enough sex. Let's do one more round, and I bet you go to sleep." And I would do it and fall asleep immediately. You see what I'm saying? So now it's different. I'm not sleeping most nights. I'm jumping. I'm like, oh my God. So
you're back to all of that without the sex. Are you serious?
yes, I'm back to jumping in my sleep on my psych meds. And it's about to drive the guy I'm dating now crazy. And not because of the no sex. It's because even with him giving me good sex, or I'm having what I would consider good sex, I still wake up and don't go all the way to sleep. And he feels like if the sex was great, go your ass to sleep. But I was used to, you see what I'm saying? I was so used to it 3-4 times a week that cycle, I was sleeping, girl, and I was sleeping good. I was sleeping good. So I pray, because this is something that's not accepted by this man that makes him say we can't be in a serious relationship. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't want anybody that feels like my mental condition is too much for them to handle.
Right.
Because I'm keeping them up at night and I'm constantly jumping in my sleep. And with a man, like he say, I live by myself. So when you come over and spend the night and you're jumping, you wake me up because I sleep light. That's a problem. And I feel horrible. I feel horrible about that, Talitha, that I'm keeping somebody up. But I'm back to that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, have you ever tried weed or anything like that?
Everybody tells me that. Oh my God. Everybody tells me that. And because of my mother and father both being on crack when I was growing up, I won't touch drugs. Drugs destroy families to me. And I know people say weed is natural, but this is what he said. Weed is natural. It's his foot on earth. And I've heard that from my 13-year partner. Please smoke, smoke, smoke. If you smoke, you'll be better. I've heard it from an aunt. If you just smoke weed, you would do. I don't want it. I don't want it. I tried it one time on my way to a male strip club in my 20s before I had my child. And I promise you, I felt like I was walking on a cloud that night, and then that was it. And then I was like, it didn't do nothing for me. So I touched a half of a blunt at about age 25 or so. I had my son at 27. So all it did for me, I walked in the club and I felt like I was walking on a cloud for a few minutes, and then everything went, because it was just a half a blunt that 3 of us shared on our way. Me, my sister, and my best friend from 5 years old. We shared it. But either way it go, it didn't do anything for me. And so I was like, I don't want that. Now I have the medicine and I take the medicine, and the medicine makes you worse, I think, than better. And so with the jumping and stuff, but when I do sleep and I finally fall off after about 2 to 3 hours of jumping, I do sleep well.
What about, somebody said try doxepin?
Is that natural? What is that? Because I do melatonin now. Every now and then I do melatonin. But what's that? Because I would like to know what that is. If it's something that's natural and that's not drugs, I would possibly try it, because I'm frustrated that I'm keeping this man up, Talitha.
Yeah.
I need something.
So it's like, and then you have to go to the you'll have to go to the place of, okay, well, now you're gonna be bugging him like, well, I need you to give me some 3 or 4 times a day like I'm used to, and then I'll sleep, and then I ain't gonna bother you. That's what you gonna start saying, and he gonna be looking at you like, man.
Already, we there already, because like, I'm older. Yeah. I don't like sex like that. My body is not, and it's like, that's why I was saying I knew I was coming to a crossroad of, would I rather be happy and travel the world? I think we talked about that before, and just have somebody in my life that really loves me for me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They're not using me for sex. And see, that's the soul top part to me. That's the craziest part. When you've always been used for sex, it's hard for you to accept somebody who doesn't want you for sex.
Right.
It's hard. It's hard, girl. It's not easy. Because it's like, is this real? Is this fake? What is this?
Right.
Yeah, it's foreign to me, if that makes sense. It's foreign. I'm like, what the hell is this? He doesn't want sex. He just wants to wine and dine me, and it's weird.
You got to open yourself up to that, though, man, because that could be beautiful. You got to think about all the people who you know,
Use me.
who can't no all the people who can't have all the people who are in relationships or marriages who can't have sex, and they have to figure out another way to please each other or another way to be close to
Happy
one
together.
another, yeah, without sex. So I know that's got to be difficult. She said it's a psych medication, the doxepin, and then she said lavender helps you relax at night as well.
Okay.
Oh, and then she said that's why you're not going to sleep, because it's not normal for you. You good. You used to get
It's not normal for right now because this is all just 9 months in and still new.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? It's still new. Is it not?
It can transform into a normal for you if you learn how to deal with it. If that's what you want to do, And so we're like, I just it just seems like it's, the connection of the spirit can be so awesome, I believe. And I believe it can be awesome even without sex. Like if you end up really, really connecting with this man that you're with, or even if God sent you somebody else, that connection, that he can give you that connection, that it blows your mind so much to where, it's not about the sex. Like you said, it's about just the being in that person's space.
Well, this is called intimate conversations, right? Mm-hmm. And so Bishop Jakes describes intimacy as into me, see into me. Okay. So into me, see, you see into me. So now when you're dealing with intimacy, we have intimacy. I've never had that.
And that's beautiful.
It is. And it's different. Yeah. But I'm not going to sit here and lie and say it's not hard to no longer be able to have my boots knocked out. And I'm like, woo, that's what I needed. And I go my ass to sleep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to look at the exchange and how great it is to have that intimacy and see into me. I once had a girl on my radio show that married a white guy, and she was black, and they never visit each other's homes, and they didn't have sex before marriage, which is unheard of nowadays. And so I remember going to her bridal shower, and the black girls were saying to her, "You crazy as hell for not trying him out first before you married him," right? But I went to the car with a black lady that said, "I married an older man." She said, "And one thing you have to know, Christy, is that when they start paying bills and taking care of stuff and taking care," she said, "it's a whole nother intimacy that's out there." I hadn't experienced that yet. But now I can say I'm getting a little taste of it these past 9 months of what she was talking about with the intimacy part. It's like, oh, wow, yeah, when they're willing to take care of you or cover the bill, or like I said, the 13-year partner, I never saw this nigga, and I have to say it like that. I need to not say that. On payday, I never saw him on payday. Out of 13 years, I can count on one hand how many times on his paydays he bought me something to eat. But yet I was cooking for him all day, every day. I was cooking for him whenever he come. I was cooking for him. I was constantly being a wife to this man. Is really what I was being. When he go through changes, when he's sick, when he's this. It was so funny that after we disconnected and I started dating another guy, he came over and he was like, "Can you take my blood pressure? Can you check me?" And it was like, what? But I knew what that was. He missed that attention that I gave, that wifiness that I gave, because I was basically being a wife to somebody who's not my husband.
Was it love for you though, or was it just good sex all those years?
It was just good sex. I'm not gonna lie and tell you, I didn't love him. I didn't even like him.
So why the heck did you do all that stuff for him? That sex was that doggone good, Christy.
It was that doggone good. I'm sorry. I'm telling y'all the honest to God truth. I went to sleep. He hit 90% of the time. There might have been times that he missed or lazy sex, or that he never came fast because he smoked weed. So I had the whole "he's not coming fast" thing. That was awesome because he laughed, and that means I'm getting 3-4 nuts, and I would be knocked out.
And so you getting up like, "Oh, let me get in this kitchen and cook you something."
Like Jody on Baby Boy. I'm getting her to make these tacos right quick. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And when he did it really great, And my uncle is dead now, and he's the one that introduced me to him, my mom's brother. And he died of an overdose, PCP and cocaine, a upper and a downer, so it stopped his heart. He died on concrete in our old neighborhood, and they found him there already brain dead, so it was too late. It had been 30 minutes. But either way it go, he introduced me to this guy. And I say that to say that they used to laugh and say with his brother, you know, if you sex her right, because I can't say the F word, but if you ever right, then she might buy you 4 cigarettes for $2 instead of 2 for $1. Because that was my thing. I never would buy a whole pack of cigarettes, but it had started getting to the point where he was hitting it so good and doing it so good, he would not go with me to the store at 1 o'clock in the morning. And now I'm at a store out here in Cedar Hill where I live. You know, Shell is 24 hours, it's lit up. But who lets a woman go to a store by herself 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning? He's gonna let her and sit there and play video games and do whatever he's gonna do. See, once again, he never loved me. He loved the sex. Right. I believe that. But he didn't love me.
You love the sex too, though.
And we don't want to accord with that. But we're talking about soul ties. We both had a soul tie.
Right.
He was soul tied to me. I was soul tied to him.
Right. And so now that you've broken that and you have connected with this other person, do you feel like there is a soul tie forming with him? Do you feel like, you know?
Yes. Okay. I do. I feel like it's forming. And it's more for him than it is for me. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that, because this week alone, he let me know, you're not what I want. You know what I'm saying? I want somebody different, because my mental condition is really a problem for this man. Because like I say, I'm keeping him up at night, and it's just becoming a problem for him. And I think that at times he's not looking at the good outweighs the bad. Right. You see what I'm saying? I took you on your first flight ever. I took you to your first comedy show ever. I took you to your first play ever this past Saturday. I took you to your first poetry night ever, because you had been incarcerated a couple of times and you had been in that lifestyle of being a dope dealer. You never got out of Dallas or out. You see what I'm saying? And so I'm thinking all these great things that I'm doing. Your first, somebody told me, you're going to drive him crazy. He's going to try to kill you. Then I had somebody else say, well, no, he'll probably protect you, be very protective. Because, you know, I took him to his first pedicure. I'm the only woman where, actually, when we first started talking, when I was still dibbing and dabbing for the first 3 months, I dibbed and dabbed with somebody else, you know, dibbed and dabbed. And he just, you know, I say that to say, for the first 3 months, he would go and probably do whatever he's going to do. I'd go and do whatever I'm going to do. Because, you know, you just don't know if it's going to work out. But doing the first for him and all the first things, a woman came to him and said she wanted to be with him. And of course, he told her straight up, I'm not letting Christy Dean go. I'm not letting her go. You can come be in my life, but she's going to stay because she treats me like a king, and I'm going to stay. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's a soul tie. I feel like it's more for him than it is for me.
So you think it's a soul tie for him, even though he said that you're not what he wants?
Oh, it's a soul tie because he said that. And then he changed, because I don't know if it's a Gemini thing, because I've never dated a Gemini. He's so many personalities. No,
I don't have that many doggone personalities, man.
But I'm just saying, I don't know, but I'm just saying for him, it's different. And so he'll say, I don't want you. I don't want to be with you, but I don't want to mislead you, and I don't want to lead you on. You're not what I want. And I've been hearing this throughout the 9 months, so it doesn't bother me. But then it's, can you spend the night? Can you stay? Can you be here? And it's like, well, why am I spending the night? Why am I staying? And then it's, can I take you shopping? And then he bought a card last week, and then he bought some perfume for me last week. And so it's confusing for me, because you're saying I don't want to be with you. Then you're coming and doing, and I'm like, oh my God, this ain't never happened before.
He might be a little bit bipolar too. He on one end.
He is, and let's go on record to say that he likes to medicate his with weed.
Okay.
Now, like I've had a good friend of mine, Gina Nicole, to say that, Christy, you probably wouldn't be able to deal with him without him getting that weed. So you probably should let that alone, because imagine how, because he actually said sometimes, I need a drink. I need a shot. Because this week we had such a bad fight that he said, you're like a kid. It's like I'm raising a kid. He said, no woman wants to raise a man, but yet I'm raising you. And it was because, I'll tell you the argument. So because y'all know I'm open. I kept going in and out his door, and he just got central air in his home because his home is a fixer-upper. So he just got central air in his home. And it was like, I kept going in and out the door to fix my hair because we getting ready to go to this play. And I'm like, and so I kept going to go get what I needed because I don't live there. I had what I needed in the car. You see what I'm saying? And about the fourth time going out that door, and my mom was like, how could you? That is so childish. You know what I'm saying? But I kept going out his door. And you know what they used to tell you as your parents, as a kid? You letting out my damn ass.
Mm-hmm.
So he went off. And I mean, he got so mad, Talitha. And I was just like, I feel hurt. But once again, this man is bipolar to me. Because once we got in the car, it was like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say I think my mental condition is too much to him because he got his own mental condition.
Yeah. Possibly.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. So at the end of the day, if you say, well, why is the soul tie more for him, Christy? If he don't want you, he's telling you he don't want you. The only thing I've told my best friends this week is that I'm going to have to remove myself from the same actions that we've been having. That's the only thing I know to do in order, because I've got to get away. If I'm not what you want. I don't want to be in the way because he's been so good to me. I honestly want this man to be happy and have the woman that he wants. But because I feel he's looking for perfection, I don't know how possible that is.
It's not possible at all. And to me, like you said, if you remove yourself and then you kind of weigh things out, then it's a time. There's going to come a time where you don't want to just continue wasting your time, especially if you're like, I'm not even getting sex like I want. Am I wasting my time in this relationship? Are you wasting your time? Are we just having a good time? Is that cool? And I think we talked about it before, but if I can't see other people and we're not in a relationship, then I need to be able to move around, because you can't tell me I can't see other people, but we're not in a relationship.
Exactly. And that's where he's at with the soul tie.
Right.
He came here. And honey, when I tell you that he came in my house, now you just told me the day before, and so he was like, I need to see who I've been over here. Because it's like, who's in this house right now? And it's like, what? But if you don't want me, what does it matter who's in my house right now? What does it matter? You see what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by the soul tie. You're so tied to, okay, I'm having sex with this woman and it's awesome with her and I'm blowing his mind. It's great to him because this is what he says doing. So I know it's great to him when he gets it. You see what I'm saying? Because I'm doing my Kegel exercises. I'm making sure I'm doing my hot water. I'm making sure I'm doing the things I need to do. So this is awesome to him when he gets it. So once again, that is a soul tie. I'm not saying you can't have a soul tie if it's horrible sex. I think it'll allow you to move on faster away from people. But if you're having great sex with somebody, I think it makes the soul tie even harder to get out of.
Well, what you said about the entering, because we are the receivers and they enter us, I believe that it's a soul tie right away. So I believe that we form soul ties with everybody we sleep with. I don't think whether it's good sex, bad sex, I think there's some form of soul tie, some form of spiritual connection that they have that enters you. Now, it might go away quickly, like you said, if it's bad sex, or it might not stay if it was a one-night stand or whatever, but it still connects to some part of you to where you're like, okay, now I got 50 soul ties in me because I done slept with 50 dudes. Now I got to figure out, what I'm about to do when I meet that person. Because remember, the play that we did, I was very serious about that production, and so wanting to help women to understand that this is not a game, man, and maybe some of your relationships are kind of doing the fool or going left because of some of those soul ties that you haven't gotten rid of yet, or you haven't asked God to heal you from those relationships, and you just kept going, and now you married and your husband looking at you sideways and you looking at him sideways, and you don't understand it's those soul ties that are just still sitting inside of you, like.
Right. And so I believe that if that's true, I believe in cleansing and saying to God, cleanse me from this and take this away. And if that's maybe the part where celibate women believe you should be celibate and be single and let God cleanse you and take it away before you start anything else.
Yeah.
Okay. And that may be true for some people, but one person's way may not be everybody else's way.
Right. I agree.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was like I said, for me, I've been with another guy that's helped me get over another guy. And that's happened for me at least 2 to 3 times. That was major because the last guy I had to get over it before this one, the 13-year was the guy that I had. Oh, Talitha, the sex was better than with my 13-year partner to the point where I didn't want it every other day or 3 or 4 times a goddamn week because it would have my stomach sore and hurting because of how well endowed he was. I would have to have about 3 days to recover.
Oh Lord Jesus.
Yeah, it was that awesome. So to get away from him, I cried when he got away from me. I cried over this man every day, and I had 20 shows to do as an actress, and nobody knew that I was getting on stage for a competition because you have 6 plays that compete. I was in 2 of the 6 plays, and we had to do 10 shows, right? So there was 20 shows in all I had to do because I was in 2. And I was crying every day, but killing it on stage. Won first place, and nobody knew that I was crying every day. And I'll never forget, my best friend lived catty corner for me in apartments at that time before I bought my home. And I went to her patio because, you know, your best friends know you're crying every day. Yeah. And I said, it's time for me to get over him. And I got over him by being with a guy that robbed me, literally, that went and fixed my house up like he robbed me. I was sleeping with this guy and cooking him cakes every other day because I used to sell cakes. And I mean, this guy robbed me. Okay, but Talitha, I wasn't even mad about that 380 because that 380 that he got out of my drawer and he set up the house, he pulled the mattress back and then he pulled all the drawers out and he opened the closet door to make it look like it was a real burglary. But I know he did it. And let me tell you how I know for sure. It was that Tuesday. I went to church that Wednesday, the Bible study, and Bishop Jakes, my pastor, said, I want to talk to you guys today about being intimate with somebody that betrayed you. And the whole conversation was about you gave them too much access and trust. And I was like, oh my God. So I know he did it. And when I sent the cops to look for him, he never came back around me because he was already in the system. The lady told me he's not going to come see us because he's already a felon. He's already in the system. So she called him to say, I'm calling you about a robbery. Can you come in and talk to me? He didn't go in and talk to her, but he never talked to me anymore either. Mm-hmm. So I'm just saying that even though that guy robbed me and that was a horrible experience, Talitha, he helped me to get over the guy that I was crying over every single day.
And that's what was important to you.
It was worth that 380. God gave me back triple that. I had just started selling World's Finest Chocolate. So this was 9 years ago, now 10 years ago. But it was 10 years ago. And when I tell you that God moved tremendously for me to make that money back, and I made it back fast too. But I'm just saying that 380 meant nothing to me. And I wound up running into the guy at the pawn shop. I'm sure he had stole somebody's TV because he was, putting a flat screen. But I mean, leopard don't change their stripes. But I'm just saying, I got robbed by him, and I felt like it was so worth it because when I told my friend on that patio that day, I went to her patio and said, it's time for me to get over this guy here. And I'm going to stop crying over him. I'm done. And she was like, about time, like about time, because I was crying every day.
Okay, I got about 7 minutes left. So my last question that I want to ask you is, what kinds of things do you think that single women can do differently when getting into relationships when it comes to sex? And we're not talking about you, but what kinds of things do you think that single women can do differently to maybe not establish those spiritual connections?
Well, I mean, you're not talking about me, but everybody would have the same answer, I think, to saying don't have sex at all, period. Just be celibate. But that's easier said than done. I've had a celibacy, even though you're hearing me about this, in college, 2.5 years. And then I got out of college and did 1.5 years. So I've done that. I've done my time. But I also wound up in a mental institution. So I'm not going to tell nobody that. And when my sister and them came to see me and said, what the hell is wrong with you? You smart. You got a college degree. What are you doing in here? What are you thinking? And this was before I was diagnosed with the bipolar. This is when I got started getting diagnosed. And I just simply said, y'all get to have sex and I don't. And I remember my oldest sister, the oldest one, saying to me, she called me a B. And so if you don't have sex, you in here because you're not having sex? Like, that makes no sense. Go and have sex. So I'm not going to say my answer is to tell these women, don't have sex and be celibate. That's something that probably the church would tell you or some other people would tell you. What I would say is guard your heart, because you can guard your heart. It's hard for most women because if you're not somebody like you said, like me, because for me, sex was just you have sex and you don't have no connection, and I can go with this one and that one, and I don't no connection. Oh well, but everybody can't do that. You see what I'm saying? And so, like you said, it might have been a soul tie there, but it wasn't long because if it was horrible, it sure wasn't long. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would say to single women to seek God for counsel if they are saved or whatever their praying thing is. I would definitely say be prayerful. I would definitely say I can't say be celibate and not have sex because, like I said, that's easier said than done. But that might be a good idea to just be celibate and not have sex. Now I can't tell them either to go be with a whole bunch of different men. That wouldn't be good advice. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I guess I would have to say I don't know because each person's journey is different.
Yeah.
So I truly can't give this is what would work for you. I can't give you that. I can only tell you what worked for me. Like I can't give them that. So I don't want to sit up here and act like I know everything because I don't. But I just would say that I would tell those women in being single because you pray, just don't let nobody tell you that the right one cannot come along. Because I never would have thought that I would be here where I am right now, 9 months away from, when it would be 6 months. Because away from this guy. Like I don't even care to go back. Like I said, it would be like a dog returning to their vomit. I don't even want to go back. Don't plan on it.
Well, I say whether it is called a soul tie, a spirits connecting, someone still in my being, I believe that sexual, emotional connection is real and the Bible warns us of it. And it can get us into a world of trouble if we don't heed to it. So that is kind of where I am with
And
that.
the difference between me and you too is you're married. So you would know more of the problems it creates in marriages, and you've been married 3 times. I've never been married.
Hey, you already know my story. So I've told a lot of my story through my plays, and I've been as transparent as I can, as far as what I believed has been an obstacle in my current marriage. And that's of course being married a couple of times and being promiscuous as a young adult. I wasn't really promiscuous as a teenager, but as a young adult, you know what I'm saying? I was, I was out there doing my thing, and so coming into a marriage, trying to resolve all of that past hurt and past spiritual whatever they left was just a whirlwind of pain for myself and for my husband. And so once I realized what it was, I really had to pray and ask God to remove that from me because I felt like he didn't deserve that.
And I feel like you just answered your question. You said I had to pray and ask God. So what would I say to single women? Everybody's on a different journey. So pray that God show you your journey of how to get out of whatever soul tie or how to stay out of soul ties and never have soul ties. Or if they're in one now and they want out. If you mean it, be careful what you ask for because it's probably going to start shaking up some things.
He will give it to you so quickly. It will make
you ask for it, you got to be very careful and make sure you're ready. Yes. Because when you ask for that, God is going to give you just that. See, that was one thing I never did. I would never say, God, get me out of it. I wanted to stay in it.
Was too good.
I wanted to stay in it. Yeah. But I never let anybody tell me either that God not going to bless you with somebody. I knew that it was some kind of ends to a mean that God is going to get me out of this one day. I don't know when, but one day.
And no matter how messed up you are, and I would say too to anyone, no matter how messed up you are, no matter how messed up you think you are, no matter where you've been, who you've been with, your relationship with God, because I'm a believer. So my belief in God, I really believe that God can change your life if you give him the opportunity to do so. And there is never one that is uncleansable. You know what I'm saying? Like there's not anything that you can do
As
where
long as we have the blood of Jesus,
right where God can
white
say
as snow. To me, the blood of Jesus, if it truly washes white as snow, and they say God is in the sea of forgetfulness,
yeah,
I can bring up that 13-year partner to God now, Talitha. He probably be like, "What are you talking about?"
yeah.
Because he's already forgiven me. It's thrown into the sea of forgetfulness. It's no longer there. I don't care how long it lasts.
And as long as you've forgiven yourself. So, Christy, I thank you for joining me tonight. Do you have anything coming up acting wise that we should be looking out for?
Not at this moment. I'm seeing a lot of auditions coming up, and they want you to send in headshot and resumes. But due to COVID, I have taken a break, and I was so happy this Saturday. Like I said, me and my friend guy went to a play. Corte had his first play for in a long time. Nobody. He say, I'm the first one. So I'm just looking forward to now that COVID is over. That or not over, but we're getting better at this. That
Right.
eventually everybody's gonna. So I don't have anything going right now. But thank you so much for having me, and I hope I wasn't too raw because I
No,
how I am about the honesty thing.
I enjoy the rawness, so I don't be tripping at all. It's awesome to hear somebody who's just really genuine because a lot of people are not, and you already know on my show that's what I want. I don't want anybody to be closed up. I want you to be able to express yourself because you don't know who you might have helped with this
Right.
conversation. You have no clue.
Hopefully I help somebody because my testimony, I done went through that for somebody.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like, y'all don't even know. I
yeah,
done been do something for somebody else to come out of. You know what I'm saying? We overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the power of the testimony. So that's my testimony, and I'm coming out of it. And I haven't gotten this thing right yet. You know what I'm saying? I'm not married yet. I haven't gotten it right yet. But yet I still believe God that there's somebody out here for me, Talitha, that He designed specifically for me.
yeah. And I have some people on here that's been commenting, so I think that you really help them as well. So
I
I
hope.
thank you. Yeah, I thank you, Christy. That is our show. We thank you for joining us. As always, you may not want to hear it, but we are talking about it. I am Talitha Kume, and Christy, I am about to let you go to bed, and I'm about to eat.
Okay, you go ahead and eat, and I'm gonna have me a good night.
Okay, all right. Talk to you later.
Thank you for having me.
All right, bye.
Bye.